Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order, and we will be the drainage trustees to start off with. I need approval of the tentative agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All ayes. Minutes from the previous meeting, please.
Previous meeting was May 27th, 2025. Wright County Board of Supervisors met in regular session as trustees of the drainage districts with the following members present: Rick Rasmussen, Dean Kluth, Lynn Lutz, Ashley Bosch, and Betty Ellis. Also present were Courtney Morris, drainage administrator, and Amanda Meyer, auditor. Other interested parties were Wright County monitor via Zoom. Consent and seconded by Kluth to call the meeting to order. Motion carried. Motion by Kluth and seconded by Lutz. Approve the tentative agenda. Motion carried. Minutes of the previous meeting on May 19th, 2025 were read and approved. There were no drainage claims for payment needing approval. There were 2 work orders that were reviewed and approved. They were DD 232 Main and section 11 of Lincoln Township for a broken tile. And the second one was DD 131 lateral A and section 2 of Woolstock Township, which was for a fixed broken or plug tile. Morse presented the following 6 drainage invoices. The first one was Ron Tree Service LLC for the hydro seeding and DD 36 lateral C, and that was for $20,354.88. Mountain Movers Dirt Work LLC was for the next 3. The first one was DD 184 section 20 of Iowa for $1,841.80. The second one was for DD 139-73 Maine in section 5 of Belmont Township, which was for $11,616.80. And the third one was for Sub Drainage District 31-176, section 3 of Lincoln for $3,828.60. The last 2 invoices were for Pedersen Excavating, and they were for DD 62. First one was in section 6 of Woolstock Township for $6,159.40. And the second one was for section 36 of Eagle Grove Township for $7,847.60. Motion by Clues and seconded by Lutz to adjourn the meeting. Motion carried.
Any additions or corrections? If not, they stand approved as read.
Motion to adjourn as drainage trustees.
We have claims.
Oops, excuse me.
The 6 claims that I just mentioned from the minutes for Mountain Movers, Pedersen Excavation, and Brown Tree Service were the claims included in today's processing.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I think we signed them already.
All in favor?
Aye.
All ayes. Now,
Open forum.
open forum. We have no work orders.
No work orders and no drainage invoices.
Motion to adjourn as trustees, as drainage trustees.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All ayes. Now we move on to our Board of Supervisors meeting. Need approval of the tentative agenda.
I'll make the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All ayes. Minutes from the previous meeting, please.
May 27th, 2025, Board of Supervisors met as Drainage District trustees. To view the minutes from the drainage meetings, see the Drainage District minutes on the county website. Chairman Rasmussen called the regular meeting of the Wright County Board of Supervisors to order at 9:10 a.m. Members present were Clues, Bosch, Rasmussen, Lukes, and Ellis. Motion by Ellis, seconded by Rasmussen to approve the tentative agenda. Motion carries. Minutes of the previous regular meeting of May 19th, 2025 were read and approved. Approved claims for payment. In open forum, Bob Ritter spoke about his meeting with Governor Reynolds. Motion by Clues, seconded by Bosch to open the public hearing at 9:17 a.m. for the Wright County fiscal year 2024-2025 budget amendment number 2. Motion carries. There were no written or verbal comments. Motion by Clues, seconded by Bosch to close the public hearing at 9:19 a.m. Motion carries. Motion by Clues, seconded by Ellis to approve resolution 2025-20, adopting the fiscal year 2024-2025 Wright County budget amendment number 2 and appropriate to various departments. By roll call vote, ayes, Clues, Bosch, Rasmussen, Lukes, and Ellis, nays, none. Resolution 2025-20 duly passes and reads as follows. Kim Demery with the Wright County Economic Development gave an update on the county website. The website committee is working to get the website updated. The website will be down from Tuesday, June 3rd to Friday, June 6th for updates. The website will be accessible to the public, but no uploads to the website can be done during the downtime. Motion by Clue, second by Ellis to receive the letter of resignation from John Hayden as a Vernon Township trustee. Motion carries. Motion by Ellis, second by Lukes to appoint Kent Telke as Vernon Township trustee with a term to expire 12/31/2028. Motion carries. Adam Clemens, Wright County Engineer, presented amendment number 1 to fiscal year 2025 Iowa DOT secondary roads budget. Motion by Clue, seconded by Bosch to approve the amendment number 1 to the fiscal year 2025 Iowa DOT secondary roads budget. Motion carries. Clemens gave an update on secondary roads department. Motion by Luke, seconded by Ellis to adjourn the meeting. Motion carries.
Any additions or corrections? Not, they stand approved as read. Claims have been around, open forum for the public.
Question. Don't we, go out and bids for fuel for diesel and stuff like that?
We do secondary road stuff.
Okay. When we deposit our tax money, do we go out and bids for interest rates?
CDs we do.
Pardon?
On CDs we do.
Okay. Okay, that was my question. I aged a CD or renewed a CD and I realized that interest rates were negotiable.
Thank you.
Anything else for public? Eric Simonson, Wright County Attorney, to present a wage adjustment effective July 1st, 2025 for the County Attorney Office Manager.
Morning.
Morning.
I'm basically here to ask the board to consider and potentially approve the wage adjustment for my office manager, Michelle Murphy. Had a chance to review the salary figures. Quite honestly, it's my fault for not having looked at them before the budget process was done here earlier, but looks like she's, I think, quite honestly, woefully being underpaid. She's one of the lowest paid employees in the county, I think, from what I see the records. And I thought, well, maybe that's just a position that was considered that way. So I went ahead and some of the other counties around our area to determine what they were looking to pay for their office managers. And it seemed consistent with what I concluded initially, which was that she's still being underpaid. We look at other counties around here, the range of salaries for office managers for the kind of surrounding counties ranges anywhere from about 45,000, which is for Franklin County, where they just started an new office manager this year, to up to $65,000 in Hancock County for a person who has 14 years of experience there. Humboldt County also has their Secretary of Executive Coordinator is making about $56,000, so it's substantially more than ours is at, which is currently at about 48, or will be at about $48,000 this year. So in the range of salaries that I'm seeing, at least in our area, to be competitive, you're looking anywhere from probably about $56,000 to $65,000, which is obviously a substantial jump from where we're at right now. I understand that's a big leap, but I want to make sure that the position is competitive and is fairly paid. So I guess I'm looking to some direction from the board as to what you might be willing to consider, but I would be looking to try to make it comparable to some of these salaries and looking probably in the high 50s if you could to try to adjust your salary. I know it's a big number, but
Yeah.
How many
it
years
would've
has she
been-
been there?
oops.
over 25.
It would have been a good discussion in January when we were.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay. Tough to move the clock back. Okay, So you are looking for a recommendation from us, or you are making a recommendation?
Well, my recommendation would be to be somewhere around $60,000 a year would be the recommendation. I think that's comparable to, I mean, it's still in a range of, probably the middle range of what I'm seeing for secretaries in our area. Or office managers in our area. Given that, I think the person with the most experience in Hancock County was 14 years, they have a $65,000 salary. Everyone else has substantially less time involved than Michelle does in terms of 3 years for one, no years for another. Humboldt County was several years, but not nearly as much as the 25 either, so.
What will that do to our budget for,
Can your budget handle it without doing budget amendment?
I would do everything I could to try to make it as budget neutral as possible. I don't know if that's completely feasible, given the sizable jump, but I'd certainly try to do what I could to minimize that impact on our budget.
Mhm. I do agree that her wage has not been made an adjustment over the years. And she does, I think, does she, from your private firm, from the private side, does she get any salaries, any pay at all?
No, she doesn't do
It's
anything
only
for
through
that side. It's totally separate, we have a separate secretary for that.
Okay.
that'd been nice if, as Dean said, had this been done more timely matter.
Mhm.
I would look in to see if your budget can handle it. And get back to us on that point, if you would, please,
Sure.
just for our own security.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you guys agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah, see what your budget will handle and we'll go from there.
Sounds good.
That'll work.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
No, thank you, Eric. Thanks
Should
for
we
your
put this
time.
on the agenda for next week
That'd
then?
be great.
Yes.
Does that work?
I'm actually gonna be at the county attorney's conference next week, so probably.
2 weeks?
2 weeks.
Okay.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
I will make a motion to table, legal item 11A. Take action on wage adjustment with
2 weeks.
county attorney opportunity to effective July 1, 2025,
June 16th.
until June 16th.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All ayes. Jeremy Avis, Wright County Engineer.
All right, just have an update, secondary roads update for this week. We have started that 270th road, the back road into Newville. And we're narrowing that up today. We're doing the first mile, the first east miles.
Have you actually closed the road to do that, or is it still open?
No, we're doing it in segments, so we don't have to close the whole length. So we're closed up to Gray,
Okay,
so they can still get around. So we'll do that in segments like that. Trucks, we're hauling right now. We've done 12,290 tons hauled to date. 63 of the 64 miles are complete for our engineer miles, so. We have one load left and it goes on the road we have closed, so. We completed 9 work orders last week. So far, year 2 rocks, 7,906 tons hauled to date. We're 46.5% completed there. Obviously, we had a short week last week. Bridge update. So today we are pouring the guardrail, open rail.
excellent.
So that'll be at 3:30, 4 o'clock this afternoon. We'll start that. So they had to fill in that east abutment, so. Timeline, that should be done and we should be starting dirt work, getting ready for bridge approaches. The middle of this week, so I'm probably 2 weeks.
Last week, or before they poured the deck, weather was a factor. Is that for the guardrails? That's not as critical as,
So it still is not as critical for
okay, all
than
right.
the deck. So that we worry about shrinkage
Okay.
when you do the deck. That's the whole, because you're embedding the beams.
Mhm.
When you get any type of shrinkage or crackage, we just spend a lot of money.
Okay.
So guardrails is just it's not a structural element, so it falls under different regulations.
Okay,
So, that's all I have.
thanks.
Thank you. Denver Energy to present windmill project.
9:30.
Oh, well, then we'll be in recess till 9:30.
Yeah, 15 minutes.
Okay, no worries. I'm ready when you are.
Back on to do any old business. Any new business? Meetings. I had UDMO, our annual meeting last Tuesday. Anybody wants to look at it? Trying to think of what else I had. No, I had Eldora Friday, which was interesting. Other than that, that is it for me.
I had Midas, meeting, again, we're pushing hard to get the comprehensive plan done and received some information that wasn't accurate. Daryl Stevens is gonna make a call concerning that today. And then I had CFR on Thursday. We were granted some substantial monies through the legislature for building the new center down in Des Moines, which includes a detox facility. But we weren't granted the total sum that we needed. So we're looking into whether or not the opioid settlement dollars can be utilized for these detox centers, or if it has to be specific to opioid detox. Michelle Del Riva, who's the CEO, says that her understanding is that it is not specific, that it has to be opioid detox, that it does include detox centers. So when I get some clarification on that, then I may be coming to the board asking to utilize some of our opioid funds to go to CFR for this building. That's who we utilize for those services. So and that's true of all the counties that are associated with CFR.
So I know that we give $7,200 annually. So would that be in addition to that, or is that part of that?
No, I think it would be addition to that. And then, I will, be meeting with the governor, myself, and two other supervisors, have been granted, an audience with her on Wednesday, concerning House Law 639. So myself, Steve Kinkle, and, Corey Serwinski will be, three supervisors. Well, I guess Steve isn't a supervisor anymore. He has been retained by Shelby County to deal with the pipeline issue. So he will be representing Shelby County as their representative. And then Bremer County is where Corey Serwinski is from. That's all I have.
So you'll have some from the first line and some from the second line, because Bramer's the second, isn't it?
Bremer is the second, that's correct.
Good luck.
Yeah, well,
It'll be interesting to hear your
comments.
report, yes.
Mhm.
I neglected to add during open forum that the lake is experiencing its annual swimmer's itch outbreak. So it's naturally occurring, the lake's not polluted, anything like that. It's just a larval form of the parasite that feeds on snails. And it thinks humans are snails, so it burrows into them. So
Any remedy for it? If you are suffering from it, get out of the water.
Benadryl,
Okay.
I'm not a doctor,
Right,
cortisone cream.
okay,
They recommend not loitering in shallow water. They recommend, drying off as soon as you get out of the water. They recommend changing your clothes, showering, changing your clothes.
Okay.
Some years are worse than others, some years last longer than others. So,
Is that only Cornelia or would that
all
be?
natural lakes get it.
Okay.
Mhm.
And it just depends on the year, depends on a lot of things. Some portions of the lake may not be exposed to it.
Well,
Other portions, or it might be the whole lake, so
So is the beach open right now, or is that, do you have that closed off?
beach is open. Swim at your own risk, it always has been. So
Okay, gotcha.
we do test for E. coli. The last test came back at 41 parts. Usually it's 10 or less, but after a rain, it usually goes up,
Mhm.
so.
Okay, we will now be in recess officially till 9:30. Invert Energy to present windmill project.
careful when you slide under that table.
Okay, you'll get your knees.
So noted.
Okay, so first off, hello and good morning, everyone. I know I have some familiar faces, but some new ones. My name is Angelia Millsap. I am the lead developer for the central Iowa area for Invenergy. I'm just gonna approach you guys and hand out a couple of things. So, we can, okay, actually, that would be great if you could take one of each and then pass them down.
You bet, absolutely.
One of them is specific to Wright County, and then one of them is Invenergy in Iowa. I have extras for
Let me have
you
that.
all as well, so now it's easy for you to take one and pass it out to Tom. I would send them.
My name is David Ballmer. I'm manager of community affairs. I'm based in Pella.
Okay.
So quick introduction about myself. I have been working for Invenergy for about 2 years now, but previously I was working for an engineering firm doing environmental permitting and construction oversight for 8 years. So I have a lot of infrastructure background, so I'm happy to take questions about the development process and then also the construction process. But switching into Invenergy, we've been in Iowa for about 20 years. Invenergy started as a natural gas company, and then as technology moved forward, kind of moved into the renewable space. In addition to natural gas, and then we also do transmission. So like I said, been in Iowa for 20 years, really cut our teeth in Iowa and kind of figuring out how to develop energy infrastructure the right way, trying to do our best to take in, community participation is the biggest thing. Everything that we work on is voluntary easements. There's no eminent domain used, especially for the renewable space and the natural gas space. The way that we develop projects is we look to see what the resource is. So here we're particularly looking for wind. Iowa has a wonderful wind source, and I'm sure you all know that because you live out here. And then we look for transmission capacity. So the next step for us would be to talk to the federal grid operators to see what the transmission line can handle. And then we look to see if there's community support. So then we begin our land campaign. We began the land campaign here in Wright County in 2022. There's over 14,500 acres that we have signed here with upwards of a little over 30 landowners right now. And we're continuing the land campaign until we feel like we have enough contiguous land that can get us back to the transmission line so we can plug in. Specifically in Wright County, we have the capability right now to develop about 150 megawatts worth of power generation. And we don't really know what that looks like yet because we're still doing the development stage where we get community support, we get people to sign on their land, et cetera. Because the transmission line is in Wright County, the likelihood of us building a substation here is very high. So that comes with purchase option and then also those larger facilities. So I just wanted to put that out there because it's, the substation is quite a bit of infrastructure there. But I just wanted to put all of those things out there. We have our fact sheet for the projects that we've developed elsewhere in Iowa. We're getting up to 18 projects, I think it says there. And then we're looking to develop quite a few more before 2028. So this project is still pretty early stage. We're not looking to start the construction process probably until
2029, putting it online in 2030. So because we want to do everything obviously the right way, not rush it, we want to make sure that, you know, we go through all of the steps in the development process, get all of our due diligence, environmental studies, permits, et cetera. And then, as you know, take into consideration all of the, you know, community comments, questions, concerns, et cetera, as well. So with all of that being said, I know it's a lot of information. I also know that I handed out a lot of information. I can also hand out my card, but I'm happy to take any questions about whatever comes to your mind right now.
You know what size wind turbines there would be, megawatt capacity and also power size to the tip of the blade?
So right now, our engineers are modeling our projects on about 4 megawatt turbines. I don't have the exact number off the top of my head because depending on the manufacturer, the tip height might be different, but it's gonna be around 580.
Sure.
Yeah, for those. Could be a little bit more, could be a little bit less. And that's just kind of what our engineers are using as a conservative estimate, just because that technology moves really quickly. Yeah.
So-
Just put this on the pipeline route too. It's your other side of easement for a winter, but you know, for a pipeline.
Yeah, I understand that, I mean, like, just to be clear, we are not affiliated with the pipeline at all in Energy. It's a completely separate company. You know, we're working on voluntary easements, like I said. And yeah, we're right in Wright County, we're looking at 100% renewables, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you give us an idea of, the question always comes up, how much for an easement?
How much for an easement?
I'm assuming that it would determine how many turbines were involved in that easement, but is there a basket number that you use for one turbine on an easement?
So for competition reasons, I can't give you the exact number, but I will tell you that, Invenergy and, our land agents, I have one of my land agents here today, his name's Kevin. He would be happy to, you know, talk with you privately about our easement, especially if you're, I mean, maybe not supervisors, but people interested in signing up. But yeah, just for competition reasons, I can't give you the exact number, but we do, pride ourselves in making sure that it is like a community effort and that everybody gets paid the same rates.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, when the Century Wind Farm was built, the easement payment for the landowners, I know this because, my in-laws have got turbines on their ground. Started out initially at $2,000 a year per turbine. And that was made with an annual payment. When they repowered, it went to $4,000 a year. Is it more than, less than? Can you say
I
that?
would say that we have a very competitive easement.
Okay,
Yes.
very good.
And we do pay a development payment, as, you know, per acre. And that goes on until we have facilities that go into operation and the electricity turns on, and then the payment structure changes. So once the electricity generation is happening, then, those more competitive payments are starting at that
Good.
time.
As I'm sure that you're aware, there's a current project by Mid-America to improve the transmission line on the south edge of the county, to increase the size of it. Can you tell us, are you looking mostly at, southern Wright County, all of Wright County? What areas are you, obviously something in Wright County, otherwise you wouldn't be here to see us.
Yeah, so since 2022, we have been looking mainly along that transmission line, so it's gonna be southern Wright County, southwestern Wright counties, where the concentration of our efforts have been. You know, if there are more people that wanna sign up and, you know, that allows us for a bigger project, depending on what the grid operator allows us to do, we can make it larger. But right now, it is based along that transmission line.
So, from a county supervisor standpoint, as you saw at the beginning of our meeting, we put on a drainage trustee hat because we have over 200 drainage districts in the county. The majority of the county is covered in drainage districts. And that infrastructure is essential to the farming practices that we do. So that will be one of our major concerns, that you are working hand in hand with us to make sure that we don't damage that, and if we do damage it, that it's expeditiously repaired.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand that. Drainage districts are a huge priority, so I would love to maintain contact with you on, you know, where, like, all of the maps, all of the information, all the data that we can gather. The sooner that we can gather the data for our engineers to create the most efficient and cost-effective design as possible it's paramount, not only for us as a business. We don't want to, spend more money than we need to. And then also for you guys, I mean, drainage tile, drainage districts, all of that is, like you're saying, like a lifeblood of a farming operation. So I think that that's one of the biggest lessons learned working in Iowa for the last 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
One farmer said, two things you don't mess with, my wife and my tiles. We understand that.
Yeah, I understand that. So.
With as many projects as you guys have, what does your data show about, bat strikes, bird strikes, stuff like that?
Yeah, so,
Or how, and how do you mitigate that?
yeah, there are several different ways that we can mitigate those items, but, beginning the due diligence process, the avian use studies go for 2+ years. So we get data where, based on, endangered species, and then also like regular everyday species, songbirds, etc. Migratory paths for birds that are not listed as endangered species or species of concern. The environmental scientists and biologists that we use can get data that can show us what types of birds fly at what heights at different times of day and at night. So, once all of that data is collected over the 2+ years, we can really site turbines away from those areas. And of course, I mean, it makes sense away from rivers, away from environmentally sensitive areas, biologically diverse areas as well. As far as bats go, they are also pretty predictable in the way that they behave. Same deal, biologically diverse areas, river corridors, areas with a lot of trees. We don't want trees. We want to stay away from trees. But yeah, there are several ways that we can do responsible siting to make sure that those, our friends who fly are not impacted. And then also, there's also curtailment options during migratory path, seasonality type things as well.
Well, if this comes to fruition, and it's built, will your main site, will it be in Wright County, or will it be in, I'm assuming Hamilton County if you're looking, or Webster, if you're looking at the southwestern part of Wright County?
Yeah, so we have several confirmed positions to interconnect across the tri-county area, I guess, if you'd like. Wright County is right in the middle. We have a lot of land here. We have a lot of community support here. So it would look like something that crosses the border into multiple counties. But because the transmission line is here, I would say that Wright County is in the position to receive those larger facilities like the substation and those things that would dramatically increase, in relative to the other things, the tax base.
And I didn't know about maintenance facilities or something like that. You are aware that we have a agribusiness park down in the southwestern part of our county.
Yeah, so O&M
With lots
facilities.
available.
Nice.
Nice plug, good plug.
Yeah, like nothing is set in stone yet. We are still very early on in the project. But Wright County is in position, you have the transmission line, and I know you have all, seen wind turbines around and have, worked with probably other developers doing the same thing, if not, us in some capacity. So I know that, you're not new to the game.
Is there anybody that you're competing with, that you're aware of in this area? I mean, I guess that's my question. Is there competition with Mid-America? Are they planning on expanding any of their stuff, or is there any talk of that, or
Yeah,
or you can't share that? Or?
I will say that, yeah, for just, those, business competition reasons, I can't, spill the tea.
Understand.
But I would say that, we're always looking to, to stay competitive in our prices and be the most responsible developer. So then we can make sure that we're the ones that get there.
Or is Invenergy, I know that you talked about your natural gas, are you actually a carrier and a supplier of electricity, or this electricity that is generated would be sold not to the consumer, but to a Mid-America and Alliant, somebody that deals with consumers?
So, Invenergy runs on 3 different models. So we are an owner operator. We can do a development transfer where we develop a project right up until construction and then allow usually a local utility like Mid-American to construct it and then own the project. Or we can develop the project, construct it, and then sell the project.
Okay.
So we're experienced in all 3. In Iowa, a lot of times we will work with a local utility, but it's not always the case. So it just depends on kind of what's commercially feasible at the moment. But the increase in tax base that comes from the infrastructure will always stay in Wright County. So whatever facilities get built here, those dollars will be returning to the community for schools, police, fire, et cetera.
When I look at your timeline and I think about, 245 tax credits and Z45 tax credits, and, is this project dependent on, federal dollars to make it feasible, or, will it fund itself with the energy it produces and sells?
So I'm not a tax expert, but with the current federal uncertainty, we're kind of navigating those things, but I think that this project specifically is somewhat insulated to those things because we're not going to construct it until quite a long down the road, so things will probably change multiple times. So unfortunately, I can't give you like a super straight answer.
Sure.
I think that Invenergy, since we've been here for 20 years, has withstood what the tax situation is federally for quite some time. So making those projects marketable and commercially feasible is not I don't think it's a huge issue.
What does the decommissioning of a tower look like? What do you do with the blades?
Yeah, so as far as the wind turbine blades now, they're 85% recyclable materials. They're, steel, aluminum, those metals that can be reclaimed. The thing about the turbines right now is that I think there's a decommissioning project happening right now in a little bit south of here, like closer to Des Moines. But otherwise, the repowering has been so successful that a lot of turbines haven't had to be decommissioned entirely. So I know that, the blades have been taken out and some unfortunate things have happened before because the market just hadn't caught up with making it cost effective to do the recycling. But I think that we're in a time now where fortunately the recycling will be able to.
So you don't
have
just
it.
bury the blades like we've seen pictures of.
Right, no, well, so for a lot of, at least the Invenergy projects that I'm aware of in Iowa, we haven't gone through the decommissioning process yet. And I think that that's going to be something that, we really look out for and learn from now. But luckily, we haven't had to do it, haven't had to bury anything, and we can take advantage of these recycling technologies that are catching up with the market.
The current ordinance doesn't allow it right now. Burying them.
No, but they haul them off of them.
There's a facility in Fairfax that's starting to,
Mhm.
early stages of starting to recycle and putting that in this concrete,
Yeah, I've seen that.
so.
Yeah. But I think that's a great question. I think with how quickly technology moves, it's really important to ask the questions of like, okay, so what's gonna happen after this? You know what I mean? So.
With the lights on the top, is there a height that you have to have the flashing lights on the top?
Yeah, so most of the turbines, regardless of the size, you know, that we would use from now into the future, they would require the FAA determinations. So we would talk to the FAA about, you know, citing those things and then, and the lights on top. There are technologies moving forward it's called ADLS, which is like advanced detection, something. Forgive me for not knowing the acronym.
Advanced detection lighting system.
Lighting system, there you go. The two easiest words of them all, I
Yeah.
forgot. But yeah, so I know in some other states up north, I think, South Dakota, maybe North Dakota, they require that technology. Where basically the lights would be off until a plane is a certain distance away. So then you don't have to worry about the blinking lights at night.
That's, I think, a big concern. I know Blackhawk County, they were going to, the people from Waterloo stopped the project because they just didn't want to see that in the horizon. And so the south side of Waterloo, was a project that was gonna start and it got stopped. So,
Okay.
and I think, you know, as we sit in Wright County and we look, you can see around the horizon and Dean knows, because he's in the middle of it, in the South Wright County.
Yeah.
It's just not, I don't know. I'm not a fan of the light, so I like this ADLS. I mean, that's a great thing and, I mean,
Yeah.
and you know that county has, resolutions and ordinances on.
Of course.
on farm, okay.
Yeah.
And then with the permitting with the drainage districts, there's permits that you would need when you start construction.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, I wanna make sure that there's an open line of communication between all of us, and I'll hand out my card. You know, we wanna do it the right way, and I'm not trying to cut any corners here. I think that's probably part of the reason why it takes, you know, 10 years to develop one of these things. But yeah, I mean, the ordinances, of course, definitely here to follow them.
You said you had like over 14,000 acres and 30 landowners. Are those signed easements already, or are they just contracts with them?
They're signed easements, but the easements do have, a development expiration, so
Okay.
we don't encumber the land, you know,
Forever.
indefinitely.
Mhm.
I think they're in a 10-year periods. Yeah,
Okay.
so.
Any other questions?
I think my question was answered by you. My question was, where does the energy go that you get?
Yeah.
And that you said probably being sold to possibly keeping it, possibly selling it, right?
So, there's a difference between the project and then the energy itself. And then also the electricity generation, right? So whoever owns the project, like right now Invenergy is developing the project, we may or may not keep it and own it, right? The infrastructure stays here, the electricity is generated here, but the electricity is gonna hop on that transmission line and go where the demand is. So like when you go to the co-op and you dump, you know, your corn and beans and everything, it kind of goes where it needs to be. But the electricity going, like, you know, away or staying it's always gonna change. But the dollars and the infrastructure is gonna stay in Wright County. So the increase of tax rates will stay here, and then obviously the turbines that generate the electricity and those other facilities will be here. Yeah.
And circling back around to 85% recyclable, the turbines.
Yeah.
Is the ones that you had built 20 years ago, are those mostly fiberglass, and is that the recyclable, and there's it recyclable today, or are the old ones not recyclable and the new ones that are being constructed recyclable?
So I believe that the older ones are fiberglass, and I believe that that was why there was a kind of an issue with recycling. But that facility in Fairfax is doing the fiberglass recycling to turn them into like park benches, part of, you know, asphalt, stuff like that, like trying to figure out ways so to reutilize them so that they don't end up in the landfill.
Okay.
The turbines now are, you know, aluminum, steel, and more of those metals that can be reclaimed for a higher value.
Okay.
But I think that that was one of the big problems, is that the fiberglass was probably cheaper to use to build the machine, and then they didn't think about the lifetime of it.
Maybe one more thing on the recycling, there's, in addition to what was talked about earlier, there is, what's evolving is a circular process to turn old blades into new blades. That was kind of a challenge, but that is now evolving too, so then it'll be basically no waste, just turning old blades into new blades.
But yeah, that Fairfax facility is pretty cool. They're doing a lot of really cool stuff.
Any more questions? You guys got any questions for us?
Thank you for coming and presenting. Usually something like this may spark some interest through the public, where we'll get questions and we would refer those people more than likely to you all.
Yeah, David is local. I am out of Chicago, so as I call you every couple weeks, hey, I'm coming by. I'd be happy to give everybody a call if you guys want to know when I'm around, but otherwise David is a short drive away. So if you want to see somebody in person and have a chat,
Very good.
either one of us, and I'll just hand out a couple of my cards.
Okay.
So feel free to reach out to me.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ben, very much.
Anything else before the board?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All ayes? Thank you.